Hello and welcome to a bit of a different video, but this is something I'm quite interested in and hopefully it's quite interesting. So this is going to be an underwater CCTV system. About a year ago I started with this project, so it's taken me quite a while, but this is the second time I've done it, and I have done one that worked for about 3 months and then packed in, and we'll get into that later. So what I'm doing here is, this is the case that I'm going to be mounting a camera in. This is the camera that I'm going to be using, which is a Reolink pan-tilt zoom camera. The reason I'm using this Reolink camera is because it's that's what the camera system currently uses. So it's going to be connected to an NVR recorder, and that's all Reolink. So it's better off using the cameras that system uses, especially one that's going to be mounted permanently in a box that you can't get to, that's underwater. So let's talk about this case. So this is the second one of these cases that I've had made. Obviously the first one, it didn't fail, the case was completely fine, it was the camera that broke. I didn't use this camera, I used another one. This one has PoE, so the cable that comes into this will be supplying it with internet and power all in one go. The other one I did do the same, but I had a little device that split the internet and power out of it and then into the camera, because the camera didn't accept PoE itself, and something went wrong with all that. It just, anyway, it let me down. But the case stayed absolutely dry, and it were 5 foot underwater for about 3 months, and the case was absolutely perfect. So if the camera hadn't died, it'd be still there now a year later. So the case itself, why is it a triangle? That's a good question. There's a couple of reasons. So you can obviously get clear plastic pipe. So I could have just used a clear plastic pipe and put an end on each end, which sounds like a good idea until you actually look at the pipe. So if you have a look at clear plastic pipe, it's really smooth on the outside, but on the inside it's like ridged. It's like a 50p. It's not folded neatly, it's folded in like little pieces like that, which means that when you're looking inside out, like the camera will be, the view just looks terrible. So you can't use pipes, or I haven't seen one that you can use. Again, it could have been a square, so I could have made this container a square, but that would have increased the air volume. So particularly a triangle is to fit the camera in as neatly as possible, as tightly as possible, like so, and then hopefully the camera's got all its movement that it needs, but with minimal air volume, so it doesn't float very well. So in this one I'll be putting lead in the bottom and putting the resin in. The resin will obviously protect the cable from letting any, where I drill the cable hole in the side here, the resin will stop any water coming in. It'll hold the lead down, which will then provide me with a nice base to stick the camera to. So that's the way I'm doing it in this one. In the other one I did it with stones, so I just put gravel in the bottom and put lead on top, and it worked fine, it was enough, but obviously lead's heavier, so I will need a lot less volume in lead to pull it to the bottom of the pond, which is obviously a good thing, so it'll just leave a little bit more room for the camera. So this one's having lead in it, whereas the previous version had stones in it, so that's something I've learned. If I were to do it again, I wouldn't make the box like this. So obviously you've got your box, you've got your lid like so, it goes on top, and this bolts on like that. If I were to do it again, what I would do is I would probably put on the lid a bracket round, like that's where the lead and that's where the camera would mount, and then you would put the case on top of it like that. I think that'd be a better way of doing it, and then I wouldn't have this flange, and it'd probably be a little bit neater in water and less for fish to flick against. Obviously this is on the bottom, but this lid bit here with bolts, what I will be doing is when I put the bolts through, I'll be covering them in silicone just to make it a smoother surface for if any fish decide to flick against it. But yeah, when I did the other one, which you will hopefully see at the end of this video, it is really interesting to see what a security camera at the bottom of the pond can see. And I mean, you can get underwater cameras, but none that you can easily connect to a security system, and that's the whole point. The point in it is that the guy who wants this camera is going to be putting covers over the top of the pond, and it's very difficult to see in the pond with covers over. Yeah, you can lift them, but you always lift one in one corner, and if there's a dead fish somewhere, it's always at the other corner. And then you don't notice until end of spring that you've had a couple of dead fish in the pond and sat in a corner somewhere that you couldn't see. Whereas this should be able to see all around under the water and see what the fish are doing. And it was quite interesting with the last one as well. The fish were very interested in the camera. So I don't know if this camera has lights on it, but the other camera had lights on it. And the other camera used to turn the lights on, and all the fish would come and literally come and stand right here looking straight into the camera, and you could see perfectly. If there's anything wrong with the fish underneath them and all that sort of stuff, it's a really good way to check it. And you can check it on your phone remotely. Obviously these cameras connect back to their NVR recorder, and then they end up with you can view it on your phone over the internet from anywhere. So that's another advantage of the security camera system. You don't even have to be at home. But yeah, so that's pretty much the intro to this project. What I will need to do now is drill the hole in the side, mix the resin up. I'll be putting the resin in, bit of resin, just to cover over the cable once I've fitted the cable in properly, and then putting the lead on top and then more resin to make a nice level base on top of that. So once there's a nice level base on top of that, I can then mount the camera on top, plug the camera in, put the lid on, seal it down. I'll just put silicone all the way around here, and then put the lid on top, screw it down as tightly as I can. There is also, you've got to tighten it down. These are all things I learnt doing the last one. You've got to tighten the lid down. It goes that way around. Just so I know if it doesn't, it goes that way around. Right, so you've got, when you tighten the lid down onto the silicone, you've got to really be perfect with the level, or it just pushes all the silicone out, which is obviously no good. So yeah, it's going to be a fun job, and let's get on with it. So here we are with the camera. We've got the cable pulled through. I've pulled through a little bit extra, and I'm going to terminate it later, which may or may not be a mistake, but I think it will be fine. What I'm going to do now is I've got this lead shot stuff, and I've got a bag full of it, and I'm going to put that in the bottom. Try to keep it away from where the wire actually comes through, and then I'm going to fill the bottom with resin. So I want a lot of resin around where the wire actually comes through, and then the rest of the resin is going to hold the lead shot in place. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stick the camera in there on top of that, so that it's just sat on top nicely, but not in the resin. So I'm going to let it all set, and then separately glue the camera down to the resin, and hopefully it's a nice flat base. So let's get on with that. So I thought I'd just show you this bit. So we've got the lead shot in that side, and then I've put a bit of tape there to keep it out of this section. And the reason for that is I'm going to fill this bit up with resin so that it's all neatly around this cable, so definitely no water can come through. And then I'm going to put some resin on top of this lead shot as well to make it a solid block and hold it down. So it should be pretty good like that, and then I can just move this tape when it's all set, or just fold it down a little bit, but it should be nice and level with resin across there. But I'm quite pleased with that. It's probably more lead than it needs. Well, it is definitely a lot more lead than it needs. It's quite heavy, that. But it'll hold it down to the bottom. I did make one with pebbles in it. So the other one I did with pebbles in it. And to get enough weight, it was filled quite high. Obviously, this is probably too much weight, but it's better off being too heavy than too light. So might as well just use it. I've put the resin in there. I'm quite pleased with it, actually. The resin went a lot further than I expected. So this bit here is nice and sort of well filled in, so that no water's going to make its way through where the cable is. So I'm quite pleased with that. It's not the neatest job with resin, but it doesn't matter. But it's a nice level base for the camera to sit on. And I probably filled it up a little bit more than I thought I would. But if you look at where the camera's going to sit there like that, there's still plenty of room for the camera to sit in there. And yeah, it's just sort of making its way through so there's a bit of air trapped underneath the resin, but it doesn't matter because the resin's all attached. And if you look, it's bubbling slightly, so it's still dropping into beads. But yeah, I'm really pleased with that. I think it's a neat resin job, especially for me anyway. Right, next thing is just let it set and then I'll stick the camera on top. So we're actually on the next day now. I've just left it there. I didn't want to move it because I mixed some and it was still in bottom at pot and it were a little bit tacky until like last night when I went to bed. But this morning, it's absolutely solid. I'm right pleased with it. And as you can see, it's actually, I'm glad I put that bit extra in because it has settled down a bit and gone right into the lead shot stuff. So it is absolutely perfect. It's nice and level. Obviously that bit of tape's, you can't see it, but that bit of tape's a little bit of a ridge there, which is not amazingly ideal, but it's fine. The camera's not gonna, it's not gonna impede the camera sitting in the middle, like so. In fact, this will be the back, because that's the joint, so this will be the way the camera looks out, like that sort of job. And then I'll bring this cable around here, fold it in, and then just plug it straight in. Should be easy. Seal the lid on. So let's get on with that now. Right then, so I've actually tested the camera just to make sure that it worked on the camera system. So I just plugged it in, it all connected, I could control it, and we were all quite happy. So I've actually gone and sealed it in. So what I've done, as you can see, is I've put all these bolts in the top and siliconed it down. And what I'll be doing with the previous one, actually, I left the bolts in, but with this one I'm actually just going to take the bolts out and do it, because this silicone holds it down that well. With the previous one that I did, it was that difficult to get this lid off. It weren't worth worrying about. So these bolts are all coming out, and it's just going to be a nice flush surface and not for fish to flick against that could be remotely sharp. So yeah, I'll be pleased to take them out. But yeah, only thing left to do is let this silicone dry and get it thrown in pond, and we should be happy. So here we go with the camera. It's ready to go in the water. I'm going to try and screen capture it going in the water. Should be quite interesting. But yeah, I have decided on putting 4 bolts in it. I probably wish I hadn't bothered drilling the holes in it and just not had any bolts in it. Just clamped it down and used the silicone to do it. It'd have been probably a lot better. But there's a lot of things I do differently. But we'll see how long this one lasts. I'm going to put a bit of string through there if I can find some and just lower it down, because I don't want to use it's quite heavy, this thing. I don't want to use the cable to lift it and lower it. But we're just going to chuck it in and see what happens. Yes, I managed to get the view up on the telly, so that's what the camera can see. Not very good actually, but it'll be better when it's underwater. It's because the sun's shining across it, and hopefully I'll be able to get the video from the camera system itself. Hopefully, anyway, we'll see. Right, let's chuck it in the water. Right then, I've dropped it in the bottom. You can see it down there. Look. So I've just didn't have any strings. I've just used a bit of internet cable. And you can just see it's out there. It still works. So there you go. That's the view on the telly. Shame the sun's shining at us, but you can't tell me that doesn't look amazing. You just can't. It looks brilliant. It's obviously this is the second one of these I've made for this pond, so I shouldn't be surprised how good it looks underwater, but it does look mint. You just can't say anything negative about that. And obviously the reason for making this stupid case and putting that camera in it is because that's what camera system this house uses, and this can all be viewed remotely, so you can easily, without having to mess about. Oh, look, the owner's found it already. He's moving it. I haven't even told him it's on yet. He doesn't know I'm here. He does now. So there we go. It's that's my point. He's wherever he is now. He's watching it already and can see in the bottom of the pond. So you can't complain about that. Right, I will be doing another video. So this underwater camera system may have got people interested in underwater cameras, and there are a few underwater cameras available to purchase. The next one is going to be a review on an underwater camera. I'm going to fit it to my fry tank. I would encourage people not to buy it because it is terrible. It's a fantastic case. I did it all the way around. Look. It's a fantastic case, and it's a good little camera with my system. I have to wave to him now. It's a good little camera with my system, but the camera is terrible. It's an absolute nightmare to set up. I would not recommend it at all. But that's why we've put this one in this case and done it like this. So if you like this video, then please like it. If you want to see more videos like this and fishing related videos, then please feel free to subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, then put them down below, and I shall see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.